And we are live. Greetings and salutations. Greetings and salutations. All right, that's my cue to put my phone on Do Not Disturb.
Yes. It's Good Love Tuesday.
Yes, Good Love Tuesday, and we are so excited. Welcome. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. We're excited to have a special guest tonight. She is preparing and is going to be hopping on in just a moment. In the meantime, please invite others. Go ahead and hop on and invite others. Share to your pages. Speaking of, I will do the same. Um, Shoot.
Hi, Lola.
Hey, Lola. Listen, I'm gonna go off camera for a second because I need to do.
Why is the device is not connected? Oh.
I am back. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Come on in. Hi, Nancy. How are you? Okay, so we are giving people a couple of minutes to come in. If you can do us a favor and go ahead and share with your people. Hey, Tasha. Yes, invite folks in for this awesome conversation. We do have a special guest. And so she's getting in. Hey, Keandra. Yes, so this is going to be a really good conversation. This is a safe space, as safe as you want it to be on this worldwide internet.
Yes.
um, but we're really excited about having our special guest today, and we think that everybody will get not only have a great time because who doesn't like talking about sex, but also get some valuable information. So I am going to go ahead and share while we're waiting. Share to my page as well. Hope everybody had a good evening. Did you? Did you have a great evening, y'all? A great day. We're still in the evening. How was your day, sister?
It's good. Jennifer's trying to connect right now. Something going on with her computer. She said the camera and mic is not connecting because she's
Oh,
like, it says device is not connected. So she needs to connect her device to the camera and
I see. Okay.
the mic.
Okay. Well,
It's
you
like,
all can understand some technical difficulties because we are not newbies to that. So we're just gonna hope that she's able to get it connected pretty quickly. In the meantime, please do us a favor and share if you don't mind. Share with other people. Tag them in the comments. Share to your pages if you do not mind, because this is definitely a conversation I think uh, that everyone would get something out of.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and if y'all want to go ahead and if you're not embarrassed, don't feel embarrassed on this. We're very open. No one's being judged. But if you are have any questions about sex or certain things that you want to ask, do not avoid asking these questions because it's an open floor. As long as you're not being disrespectful to no one, that's all we ask. But if you
Yeah.
really have questions, she is a therapist. She's a sex therapist. She is a professional. So
Yeah.
she's not doing this for play. She doesn't just like sex. She is educated in this and very bold, blunt, and no, nothing is an embarrassing question to her. She is used to this. Okay, so this is the time for y'all to bring the heat. Okay, you need to
Yes.
start back in your bedroom. Listen, this might help you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, yes. Okay, Keandra, I see we need to catch up. I'm glad
Oh,
you moved closer and I'm glad you got out of that toxic situation.
yes,
So yeah, we need to catch up on that. We need to catch
yes.
up on that. So, um, So I see that our guest is here. So we are not going to belabor this. We want to get right into
Yes,
it.
yes, we are
So
ready.
I'm going to go ahead and bring in Miss Jenifer Smith. Hi, Jennifer.
Hey,
Hi. So nice to meet you. I was like, I've heard about Carrie's sister forever, but I had never met you before. So it's nice to
Oh,
meet you.
yes, nice to meet you as well. Nice to meet you as well. Thank you
nice,
for
Jennifer.
joining us tonight. Yes,
Yes.
right. The technical difficulties didn't allow us to meet before this. So, hey.
I know. Life has been a little crazy on my end. So thank you all for wanting me to come on at some point. I appreciate it.
Yes,
Absolutely,
yes,
absolutely.
absolutely. Thank you for taking the time to come on and share with us and our audience. We're ready to get on into this.
Yes.
So let's just deep dive in.
Okay. We like a deep
So
dive.
yeah, let's deep dive. So first of all, if you don't mind just telling us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been a sex therapist and what drew you to this particular career path.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So, my name is Jenifer Smith. I've been a therapist for 10 years. I've been a sex therapist for 6. And I have a double master's in marriage and family therapy and mental health.
Nice.
So I originally started my career. Carrie doesn't even know this. So, my original career was in public relations.
Oh, I
Hmm.
didn't know that.
And yeah, and so when I was doing PR in college, I was on a sex talk radio show.
Okay.
And that's where all this began. I really love the content. I love talking to people about dating and love and sex and boundaries and toys and things like that.
Okay.
And so when I graduated from college, I was like, I still really like it, but I don't think it's my full time career. And then I wrote a relationship advice column for a magazine for 4 years. And then I was like, all right, I think this is maybe not a hobby anymore. This might actually be my career.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided to make a career change. And at 27, and I moved to Miami and went to Barry University and got my degrees.
Nice. I
Yeah.
Very
love
good.
it. I love
Very
it.
good.
So
You did
yes,
that with passion.
yes,
Mm.
absolutely. And I love to hear your journey because number one, yes, we want to talk about sex, but also there's many people that did not realize that sex therapy was a thing, you
Right.
know.
Right.
So I'm glad that you kind of, shared your path with us. So with that being said, for those of us that may not be clear on what it is, please explain what sex therapy is and what it kind of entails or what the experience would be like if you were to go to a sex therapist.
Yeah, so sex therapy is essentially just an umbrella term. Sex therapy, I mean, there's lots of different things underneath that umbrella. So that could be anything that's related to sexual abuse, could be anything related to masturbation, BDSM, toys, could be just communication around intimacy related issues, masturbation. Like there's lots of different things of why people come to see sex therapists. And I feel like a lot of times the stereotype is like, oh, I have to be a sex addict or I have to have erectile dysfunction in order to come. And it's not that at all. People
Mhm,
come for those reasons, but
mhm.
really we deal with anything that's really intimate related. And that
Okay.
could be as simple as communication or erectile dysfunction or both, So it's just a big umbrella term for people to come to therapy about really intimate related issues.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
So, sister, do you have a question thus far with what's
No, no,
okay?
she,
You're good.
you guys
You're
got it.
good?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you know me, I got questions.
That's your journalism degree coming out. Go ahead, sister. I know it's coming out. Go ahead.
I got questions.
I know.
So because I watched the and oh my gosh, actual docu series is eluding me right now the name of it, but it was on Netflix.
Oh,
Um,
mhm.
there was a couple of them. I know Gwyneth Paltrow she had
Yeah.
one,
Mhm.
and then there was another one as well. But it was talk. I think the second one was talking about women and intimacy and all of that. And the first one was just very diverse.
Yeah.
But there was some hands-on type of therapy, specifically with the couples. I think that was the first documentary that was with the Gwyneth Paltrow, Goop something,
Mhm.
Goop Sex and something.
Yeah.
So when we think of sex therapy, is it is that always included? Like when you go to a regular therapist, it's just a lot of talking, it's a lot of expressing, questions
Yeah.
being asked, and you talk a lot. With sex therapy, is it the same thing? Is it more talking, or do you get into, physical exercises, that type
Yeah.
of
This is a very common question. I think, yeah, more as like the documentaries are coming out, people are seeing lots of different sides.
yeah.
So there is a big difference between sex therapy and sex coaching.
Oh,
And a lot of times, sex therapy, we are in there doing all the talking and learning the tools and things like that. And I may give homework assignments of things for you to try, but I'm not physically in the room helping you figure out these positions, right? Like,
right.
Like you don't have a cucumber, you're not teaching someone how to give head, or are you?
well, that's a different workshop. That's a workshop. That's
Oh,
not something I'm doing in session.
okay.
For me, and everybody is different. Everybody has their own niches that of what they work on. So, like for me, the therapy part, I'm really trying to help you peel back the layers of the root of how we got to where we are. And so I'm working on helping to solve those things. Now, I might also recommend that you go to a sex therapist a sex coach while you're in therapy with me. So we are working on things actively in both realms. That's
Okay.
not uncommon. And so, and even sometimes for patients that have different medical issues, they might also be seeing a pelvic floor doctor, or they might be seeing a physical therapist to work on things. So like it's not uncommon to have dual services going on at the same time. Now for
Okay.
sex coaching, people are going there to actually have somebody, not they're not there when you're having sex, but they are there to help you kind of the fundamentals of showing you and teaching you like this is what you would do, this is how you would like, and talking you through it of like, does that even feel comfortable for you? Explain that to your partner why it doesn't feel comfortable for you, or is there something coming up when you're doing these acts, and being able to verbiage to conversate with your partner about what's happening in the moment. So
Okay.
there's lots of different things that the sex coaches will do to help people kind of work their way through what they're practicing. And right now, there's lots of different things. I think the pandemic has made people in the sex coaching world really inventive of being able to do things virtually. And so they're able to help people. And so it is nicer that people can actually be comfortable in their own homes and the coach is on the screen. And it's like, okay, I want you guys to get down on the floor and get in this position, or use a yoga mat, and we're going to work out some stretching before we get into some of these positions. So I think the pandemic has created some different ways where we are able to reach couples in some different ways, which is awesome. Now, in our sex therapy world, there is something what's called a sex surrogate. And there was a documentary, Lisa Ling did this documentary through CNN a few years ago, and it actually walks you through what a sex surrogate is. And that is a licensed therapist certified as a sex surrogate to actually become intimate with the patient. And, and
Wait, isn't that like on what's that show, Masters of whatever, with the with the
Masters of None or something like that.
yeah, we're like not Masters of None, but it was like a show where the two doctors, it's like a true story. They studied
I
sex.
haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either.
Yeah, they would actually have their patients have sex in front of them, and they would study.
You know what? I remember a movie where what's the guy that's always kicking butt? His wife died on a ski with a ski, whatever. I forgot his name. Taken, the guy from Taken. Liam Neeson. He did,
Yeah.
he played I guess it's someone who did something big in this field of like sexual discovery and all this kind of stuff. And yes, they started, actually having sex with the people who were participating in the studies and all this stuff. So that's interesting. Okay, sorry, go ahead, Jennifer.
So there's lots of different things, but in this particular realm, the person is usually referred by a sex therapist. They usually have to be referred by a therapist to even get to a sex surrogate.
Yeah.
And the reason why you would recommend is like your patient might really have had some complex trauma that you've now worked through. It's been a period of time where they are now ready to be intimate again, but they're unsure of how to build safe intimacy if their only knowledge of the intimacy was violent. And so a sex surrogate could really be there. And it's a very slow process. You're not intimate with them initially at all. It's just even practicing the most simple form of intimacy of talking on the phone, just building conversation, learning just how to hold someone's hand, and these are broken into sessions. So like that session, it may only be 30 minutes, but it's because we held hands and we walked through a park together and we discussed, how did that feel for you? Was it uncomfortable? And, so it's a very slow process of teaching that person about intimacy in every way possible. And then the physical part is it's more close to the end. And there's lots of conversations going on leading up to that. And then that patient is still working with a sex therapist incongruent to having the sex surrogate. So like the sex therapist, sex surrogate are talking all the time.
So for people who just came in, tell them what a sex surrogate is again.
A sex surrogate is a licensed therapist that has intimate contact with their patient.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, it's very controversial when you talk with different people in the field about it. But I've actually been able to meet sex surrogates and actually, see what it's all about up close and personal. And I honestly think it's something super amazing. In the documentary that Lisa Ling did, there was a man in there that had Parkinson's. And so like his body was changing, his genitals was changing. And it's very hard to work out how all that now is functioning with someone you're just newly dating.
Right.
And so having somebody that is a professional and they're not there to judge you, they're there to help you, support you, and teach you new things. Like, I think that's a beautiful thing that we even have that space where someone could be completely vulnerable and open to learning different things from a professional.
An individual, I'm sorry, not to cut you off. I'm sorry. Did you?
Oh, no, I was just saying that so the sex surrogates, they only have like maybe one or two people at one time. That's it. Like, it's not like they're doing this with, 5-6 people at one time. They usually only have one or two for the year.
Okay. Of patients that they're working with.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess I have a 2-part question when it comes to that. So have you heard of cases where, because we're human, right? And if you're being intimate with someone, even if it's not sex or intercourse, like you said, it builds very slowly, phone conversation. It sounds like kind of courting a little bit, even though so have there been cases where the boundaries got blurred and like maybe the patient got confused, in the process? I can imagine that may happen.
Yeah, I mean, that is something. I mean, most therapists in general have their own therapist that they are talking through things with. So that is also how we hold emotional boundaries. Has this happened? Definitely. I've definitely heard of patients, that have grown emotional attachments to the therapist. However, that is why it's very slow. Like you're talking, and if we have to stop at a certain point because it's becoming unproductive, then you stop. This is also why they're still seeing the sex therapist at the same time, so that we're all conscious of what's happening and if there are feelings developing emotionally, so that way we are able to address them and set the boundary. If the boundary continues to be pushed, then that's when it would stop.
Okay.
But most of the time the therapist is very conscious of this is still very business, like this person's still paying to come here. So, but have I also heard of sex surrogates ending up with patients later in life? Yes, I have. So those also are risks.
I can imagine.
Will no longer be a sex surrogate after that? Usually not. But it does happen. But for the most part, it is a client professional relationship.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Let's go ahead. I think we greetings everyone. Greetings everyone that came in while we were talking. Let's get into a question here.
Okay.
Tasha says if statistically the majority of women orgasm from here we go with the words clitoral stimulation and not penetration, why are so many men focused on blowing someone back out as if that is the goal for female pleasure?
Uh,
You get
It's
all
so
of that.
true. It's so true.
this is a great question, Natasha, and I also love your photo. Um, so this is like probably two-part answer for me. A lot of men don't take the time to ask women if they are stimulated clitorally or vaginally. They don't ask that question because it's different for every woman. Not every woman likes to have their clit touched or licked or played with or anything like that. So it is about like having the conversation. So I'll say that part. They don't always ask or communicate that. And women don't usually speak up about it either. That's
Yeah.
in my experience, women have not spoke up about it either.
Yeah.
But men are so focused on blowing someone's back out because that is the nature in which men are encouraged.
From
It's
porn.
songs, movies,
Mhm.
porn,
Mhm.
friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all they hear. When you
Mhm.
listen to a lot of rap songs, that's what they talk about. Beating the box up, blowing her back out. Like it's
Yeah.
not the narrative has changed so much over the years. And that is like the staple of you're a good fuck, but that's not. It doesn't mean you're a good lover at all.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
because most of the time when people are going so hard and trying to blow someone's back out, you're actually hurting your partner. They're not
Right.
being triggered at all.
Yes.
This is where
Yes.
communication comes in. Women have to speak up about what actually pleasures them, what arouses them. How, if that hurts, tell them to stop.
Mhm.
Yes.
Stop
Like,
thinking about you're going to hurt someone's feelings if you're telling them that it's hurting you.
That's a good segue into why is there such hesitation about, communicating what you like, what you don't like, what is happening to you in the moment. What are some reasons why, and you specifically called out women,
Yeah.
why women may hesitate to be expressive about their sexual needs or, any of that?
A lot of it has to do with shame.
Mm.
Women are shamed, not by men. A lot of times, it's usually by other women, our mothers, church,
Mm.
and and a lot of times it's women are just pushed to be people pleasers. You better
Mm.
please the man if you want to keep them. You better please them if you want to have these babies. Like that's the narrative that we're always given. So if I speak up and say that I don't really like this, then am I going to be rejected? Are you going to make fun of me? Are you going to tell this to your friends? Like that shame it sticks with women. And especially in my experience working with a lot of women over the years is a lot of times it's kind of baggage that drags from relationship to relationship. If one partner kind of shamed you about not liking something or not performing well, then your confidence is down, and then you take that into the next relationship. If that partner wasn't supportive, then you take it into the next one. So it just continues to be this baggage that you start collecting. And so then you're just like, well, I'd rather just shut up and say nothing. That way nobody can say anything to me about it.
Lord. Well, I do have a question about as far as orgasms. So is it true in your profession, a lot of more women don't have orgasms versus they do, or they have more of a difficult time having an orgasm? Is it due to not speaking up and saying what they want, or is there many factors to this?
A lot of it is, that they're not having orgasms. I think we've gotten better. I think women have gotten better over the years, or having more, but the ones that are having more are usually having them by themselves, not usually with partners. But a lot
Wait, say that again. You kind of went a little lower. What did you say?
women are having more orgasms, but they are having them solo. They're not having them with partners.
Okay.
This
Okay.
goes back to communication. Women
Right.
now, I mean, when we think of like the evolution of sexual freedom and conversation and empowerment around masturbation and toys and things like that, women are able to now privately go and pleasure themselves.
Mhm.
But again, there's a lot of shame with if I come and tell my partner, like, well, this is how I like it. And when I use my vibrator, I use it on this part of my clip for this amount of
Mhm.
minutes, and this is how I
Right,
get off. Most
Right.
women don't want to tell their partner that because they
right.
don't want to make the partner feel bad. But
Yeah.
really, you're giving them a pleasure map on how to get to you, how to make you come, how to make you pleasured, how to arouse you. But
Right.
that's not something we're usually taught. We're not usually taught how to communicate those feelings. We're not taught about intimacy. We're not even taught about how to masturbate.
Mhm.
So, and orgasms, not even a conversation until much later in life.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Absolutely.
women are having more, but they're usually solo. They're not usually with partners.
Do you have any exercises that would help? Okay, so let me pause real quick. I think that sometimes when it comes to these intimate, discussions, sometimes our issue is in our own head. For
Yeah.
instance, maybe we fear that the other person would reject us.
Oh,
We
100%.
fear that, they would get, like we'll bruise their ego if we say, listen,
Mhm.
I like it like this, or can you slow down, or can you speed up, or whatever the case may be. But that may not be the case. Have you found as a sex therapist that
Mhm.
a lot of times the hesitation to communicate and be open about these things is more so not because the other person has, given them a reason to, but just within themselves they feel
Oh,
like,
definitely.
okay.
Definitely. When I've had workshops with women, that comes up all the time.
Hmm.
All the
Mhm.
time. Um, they don't come a lot of times it's because of conversations they had with their mothers or lack thereof.
Okay. Okay.
Mm.
That of why they don't communicate how they feel.
Okay.
Or
Go a
they were
little bit more into that. What do you mean? Like the mother deflects onto the daughter, her
yeah,
experience, or?
right. It's like deflection of, like, well, this is I didn't learn this from my mother, so I'm not teaching it to you. I have learned a lot when I was living in Florida culturally. There wasn't conversations about it, or you were, I worked with Haitians, Cubans, Dominicans, like they were not encouraged. Caribbean women in general were not encouraged to talk to their partners about pleasure. You are here for a job to provide a service to your husband, and you're gonna have these babies.
Mm,
Mm.
But don't talk about what you want, what you need. It's not about you.
mm.
How early of an age do you think people should talk about sex to their children? Because I remember being younger and having sexual feelings and not knowing what that was at a
Mhm.
young age. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know how you see kids, and this is the thing that people don't talk about, but we're gonna keep it real. You see kids humping on teddy bears or on pillows or rubbing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and parents will pop them, be like, stop that, don't do that. Versus telling them why is that when they should have the talk, not necessarily about sex, but why they have that feeling down there.
Mhm.
And,
100
and how,
100%.
yeah.
100%, Carrie. Sex should be like an evolving conversation as the kid is getting older and reaching different milestones. And this is something I talk with parents about. You should start talking about certain sex things even when the kids are potty training. When you're teaching them about their private parts, because a lot of parents don't even acknowledge, like, you have a penis, you have a vagina. They
Mm.
want to call it something different to make it cute, but it's like you have to tell them what their actual genitals are.
Yeah.
Right.
Because in this day and age, when someone else is touching your child inappropriately, they can't properly identify who's been touching what.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it starts even with that of like teaching your child about their body and what the parts are called and what their function is and who are the safe, appropriate people to be touching them. Doctor, mom, dad,
Mhm.
babysitter, whatever. But you have to start right there evolving the conversation. And as they get older, When it comes to the sexual desires part, I've felt a lot of resistance from parents over the years when I've talked to them about self-soothing. So there are plenty of my colleagues that are sex therapists or sexual healers and stuff like that. They've all taught their kids about how to masturbate at like 4 or 5, and
Mm-hmm.
those kids are like, they are self-soothers. Like when they are having a moment or they're having those desires, they ask, can they go to their room for privacy so they can go and masturbate?
Really
And I think it's
interesting.
super encouraging and wonderful because one, you don't see those kids acting out as much. They are able to actually show self-discipline, like, and so they're more in tune with their bodies. And I'm like, what an amazing thing that at that young you could already be in tune with your body, because we know plenty of grown people that have no idea what their genitals do or in tune with their bodies at all. So I get that there's a lot of resistance to teach your kids something like that super young, but I see the benefits in it, and my colleagues and friends that have done it with their children. But there's plenty of books and literature out there now that you can read on how to educate your kid about sex through the ages. Because if you're waiting till they're like 15 or 16, like you're already too late. They've
Yeah, you're
already
right.
learned about a whole lot of stuff.
Probably smashed already.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
late.
Listen, I that's very interesting, and I'm being really really educated on in terms of like this field and what, like, I've never heard of such teaching a child to masturbate, and this is very so you spoke earlier about how even whether it's the church, religion overall, that there's certain mindsets in when it comes to sex, and specifically like masturbation. So when how what is a role from your experience with the clients you've worked with, how much of a role does like religion play in
Mm,
their sexual lives, or their even their mindset, and them being able to be, I guess, sexually free even with
mhm,
their partner, even if they're married? Like, let's get to the married people that
mhm.
have you know
Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up. I mean, that's where I've seen it the most is with couples. They come in from different faith backgrounds, because what I love is like when people come in for like the first session, I'm like, oh, so tell me about like what brought you here. And they're like, well, we're not having enough sex. And I'm like, okay, like, well, there has to be some other related issues here. And then I start like taking them through a series of things. And then it comes down of like, they never talked about backgrounds. They never talked about their religious backgrounds or upbringings or how they first learned about sex. And I still hold on to those values in this relationship, but they
Mhm,
never talked about it.
mhm,
So that comes up quite a bit. And it's a lot of like separating of what was your value back then and what are your values now.
mhm,
And
mhm,
and holding on to the past, is that because you're still afraid of the judgment from your family
mhm,
or God or your higher power or whatever, and so trying to get them to really hold on to like what are their values now and what are their values in this relationship,
mhm,
because
mhm,
you also made a commitment here. And
mhm,
so where are we finding the middle ground to really marry our differences, our religions,
mhm.
and what are we practicing now? Because sometimes people come in with all their religious beliefs and everything, but they're not practicing any of it in their other areas of their life.
Right.
Why in this area are we holding on to it, but in other areas it's completely off limits?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, speaking of, I wanted to go back to this comment. Constance says this is within the confines of marriage, correct? I'm assuming that and if Constance, if you're still here, you can clarify. Are you
Mhm.
talking about sex in general, or was it something specific that was said? Now let me be clear on here. We are talking about sex across the board. We all have different beliefs. Some people believe that sex is only, within the confines of marriage, and some people feel that it's once you're of age. Some people, obviously, if we just discovered that some people are teaching their children to masturbate or self-soothe. I've never even heard that term, self-soothe. At that young of age, basically toddlers or whatever, then we have a lot of different beliefs. So we don't have to agree. We don't have to
Right.
agree, but we do understand that there's a lot of different things that are going on. So this is a educational space tonight, and not necessarily one of that we have to agree that this is right and yeah,
Right.
that's what you should do. I don't even think that Jenifer is saying that this is what you should do. She's
Mhm.
explaining things that as far as a therapist, um uh what's going on out here in these streets. Okay.
Definitely.
So, that's that. So let's get a couple of more questions. And then I do have a question that was sent anonymously that I want to bring up as
Oh,
well.
Natasha.
Yeah. What's the deal with
So
when
let's get to
any
the nitty
woman
gritty.
achieves
Oh,
with it?
we're taking a real turn now. Okay.
One of our comments said, "Good love after dark." That's right.
Yes. So squirting is I'm trying to think, how can I describe it?
Is it true that it's pee?
No.
Okay.
No. I'm trying like squirting kind of is what it sounds like. But it's coming out of your vagina. If you don't know what it is, I Google it. I would
Okay.
suggest sometimes you have to just see things to understand. So squirting is a big deal for men
Mhm.
because they feel like it's like a benchmark of achievement. It's like I made her squirt. Like, so I get a pat on the back that I did that. It's like a badge of honor. But I'm like, the woman did really all the work. Like, you have to be hydrated. Like your Kegel's got to be on point. Like, you got the ability to shoot it out slow, fast, far, short, like distance wise. Like, so I'm like, you helped out, but you weren't the main contributor here.
Mhm.
So
So there's
squirting,
different things you have to do to prepare to squirt. Like you can't just say, "Okay, I'm going to squirt tonight," and it happens, or like,
well, some people can.
okay,
Some people can, and I mean, it takes a lot of practice. This is actually where masturbation comes in really helpful because if you are not someone that doesn't squirt, you can work on that while masturbating. So like to me, that's a badge of honor. It's like, listen, I can do it on my own. So like it's a way for you to work up to it. It's a lot of factors. It's about the lubrication, the wetness, like um if like again if you're hydrated, your arousal, it's a lot of different factors, so you may not be able to do it every time. Most people don't, but if you are in the practice of sex or you have a lot of sex or you have a partner that you all have sex a lot, it is more achievable when you have more practice at it. I've worked with porn stars before, and I worked with somebody who literally was like, we would shoot, and then she would be like, "Yeah, I could squirt when we come back on film," and I'm like, that you could do that already? Like, that's amazing. And
like
like
on
we like
cue.
literally start shooting, and she's like, "Waterfall," and I was like, "What?" Like this is.
Oh,
I was like judging my own vagina. I was like, "What are we doing wrong out here?" Like I didn't know we could do this. And then she did it again, like in a second scene, and I was like, okay, well, I got shit I need to work on too. Like,
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Let me ask you this, Jenifer. When it comes to, masturbation, even using of toys,
Mhm,
I've heard people voice the concern that if you get so used to self
mhm,
pleasuring, that when you come together with a partner and they are not going to be like you are because you're in you and they're outside of you, um then if they're if you get used to pleasuring and mastering that, then will it take away from your relationship with another person? And particularly in marriages, I've heard a lot of
mhm.
people kind of voice the concern of like the person now would rather self pleasure than to be intimate with their partner, or their
God.
spouse. So, can you address that?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer this in like two parts. So, quick answer is you can become more reliant on your toys if you are masturbating 2-3 times a day. Like, it just depends on the repetition of how often you're doing it. If you're doing it a few times a week, you're not going to get as dependent as if you're doing it every day, multiple times a day for weeks on end, right? Like, then you can get more desensitized to it. I do suggest people all the time that are my single clients, I do recommend that they take breaks where they don't do it for a while, so they can get more of that like natural stimulation back, and they're being more, a little bit more focused on like actual physical interaction with someone, or at least giving their body prepared to be physically interacted. So you can become reliant on it. Like, people get addicted to that too, just like anything else. But it is something you just have to be conscious of. But I do think masturbation is a great tool for anyone that's single, because you are really getting in tune with your body, and you are able to really communicate to your next partner about how to pleasure your body. That's the biggest part, I think, with both couples and singles, is you have to still teach someone on how to make love to you or how to have sex with you when you know your body. And that's okay, because you could spend a long time trying to figure out how to get to someone's pleasure points, and you didn't need to spend all that time when you know how to show them, you know where to tell them, And so I do encourage people to really communicate those things, because most of the time partners are like more than excited to, yeah, tell me how to get you off, so that way I ain't gonna do all this extra work. Like, let me just get to the point. But in I have worked with couples that have come in initially about that, of the partners now want to masturbate rather than having sex with the partner, and that's because they are not communicating. Or they're having a difficult time communicating about what their actual needs are. And sometimes it's not even the needs about sex, it's about something totally unrelated that now is leaking over into the intimacy part. So we have to kind of go back and talk about the relational part of the relationship, which then usually does help the intimate part. But for some partners, and I see in a lot of people, which is disheartening, I see a lot of people use sex as a punishment in their relationship. If you're not going to do this, this, and this in the relationship, then I'm not going to have sex with you. So go ahead and masturbate. And then you have this big divide later when you want to be intimate with them. They're like, no, you didn't want to be intimate with me, so I'm not going to be intimate with you. So the communication piece is really, really important as a couple, about where you are and what are your needs. And they're going to change too. I want people to hear me when I say, like, your sexual needs are going to change as you get older, as you have kids, as your life changes and things like that. So be open to change, that just the way you used to pleasure me 5 years ago is not how you're going to pleasure me now. That's okay for it to change. So I know a lot of times couples will come in and they're like, all of a sudden that person just changed and now they want me to do all this other stuff. And I'm like, they want more variety. That's okay.
Yeah.
They need something else. And so I want people to be open to change in their sexual relationships, because that's a natural part of sex.
Yes, absolutely.
Don't you have something that you want to show us, Jenifer? Don't you have some things about sex toys that you want to share?
Yes, I do. Okay. So May is National Masturbation Month.
Okay.
So I'm going to show
We're gonna
you
come back to this question. Let's do the show and tell, and then we'll come back to the question.
Yeah.
So I actually, for years now, I've been recommending these to people. So these are actual masturbation gloves.
Shut up.
So they have like different grooves on each finger.
Are those penis fingers?
On the palm. What'd you say?
Are those penis fingers?
Some of them are penis shaped, or some of them just have like different grooves on the top.
Wow.
So these are really great because you can use them like in the shower, in the bath. But these are also great to just put lube on and use them against your clitoris. And you can use these like by yourself or with a partner. If you are using this on someone with a penis, this is very nice texture on their penis when it's lubricated. I would not recommend using this with no lubrication.
Get off of me.
Yeah, because these are rubber. But these are great to actually use in the bath or the shower. So masturbation gloves are awesome. And I have 2 different pairs. These ones are a little bit more for serious pleasure.
Wow.
They're a bit more aggressive. But they do the same thing.
And it's black.
It's gonna get messy. It's gonna get messy.
The
So those are
literal.
masturbation gloves. This is like one of my. This is kind of like a beginner vibrator that I always recommend to anyone who's looking for a beginner one because it's small. The girth of it's small. The length of it is pretty small, but it packs a lot of power. It has 10 different vibration settings. And it just comes with a simple charger. You just plug it here and plug it up to the wall, and it's good to go. And these batteries last like they last about 8 to 10 hours.
Nice.
So it's good for multiple uses before having to charge it. This one's actually a really great one to travel with. This won't usually get you flagged in TSA, unlike some of my other toys. But so this one is always really good. So this you can use by yourself, and you can use it in multiple cavities. And you can also use this.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And you can use this with a partner. This is actually really great if you're receiving oral. You can have this on your. He can use this on your clit. If you're a woman or a man giving head to a penis owner, then you can put this on the side of your cheek, and then it feels like a big vibrator's on his penis.
Huh.
Yes, or you can also put it. You could put it under the balls too. So there's lots of different ways that you can use a small vibrator like this. So don't.
That's not gonna hurt. That's not gonna hurt because I know their balls are real sensitive. That's not gonna hurt their balls.
Depends on the partner. He might like it. Some things you got to communicate first to see if he would be open to that.
Communication,
Right.
right?
So that's the small one. One of the toys I recommended the most during the pandemic are the vibrators that come with a remote. Because, lots of couples were stuck working from home and it just gets kind of like monotonous. You're here every day, people only getting half dressed, so we had to find some ways. So this vibrator is called Double Fun. It's by Satisfier. And you put this piece inside and then you turn it on up here. And this one actually has a double motor on the top. So it's I don't know if y'all can hear it.
I think it's very vibrating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very strong. And so you would put this piece inside. This part is on the clit and then has the remote. So your partner can use the remote on you. But the great thing about Satisfier products are they also are Bluetooth accessible. So they have an app where you can connect your toys to, and your partner can then control the vibrator and change all the settings if they want. They can change how fast it's going, what the pulse is, the speed. So it can be a lot of fun to wear out on a date night.
Mm.
And the range is pretty good on this with the app. So I totally recommend
it. Like someone have that inside of them on a date night, like under their tree. Oh wow.
and the partner is controlling it. So, oh my God.
Right.
Okay. That has
a lot of fun.
Safe space.
It cuts down the foreplay time because by the time you get in the car or you're on the or by the time you get home, like get ready to rip your clothes off.
Right.
So totally recommend this. It's great. It's very flexible. It's soft. And I've actually given this one away for multiple wedding gifts. So always a big hit. Always a big hit. So I decided to bring one of my biggest toys, primarily for Carrie because I know she likes, but so I have this big, beautiful one.
Oh my goodness, look how beautiful that is.
Yes. Iridescent. And this is actually the mold of a real person. His name is King Noir. And he is a porn star.
Oh my gosh.
Like an amazing man. He's a friend of mine. And this is his actual mold.
Wow.
This is the biggest toy I have for sure.
That's the penis you have to go ahead and marry because ain't no penis gonna be satisfying after that one. That's gonna have to.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
wow,
it's really big, but I do love that it has the balls on there because a lot of toys, surprisingly, don't actually come with balls on it. And so then, when I've taught blowjob classes women are like, oh yeah, I always forget about the balls because they're not on the dildo. So I do like that a lot of toys now are starting to include them. And I encourage that for anyone watching, that if you're gonna get a dildo and you want to practice doing things on a dildo, then get one with a ball, so that way you know that you're not gonna forget about them on a real partner. But yeah, so this is the biggest toy that I have, and it's big and beautiful and
It is
attached
beautiful.
to an amazing person.
Oh
So
my
what
God.
these toys that you're showing us, where can our viewers purchase them?
Yeah, so I will send. I'll add a link here. Well, you can buy King's dildo. He actually, it's actually a black owned porn company called Royal Fetish Films. So you can go on there and purchase it, or you can follow him on Instagram and find out. They also come in like other colors. Um, the other toys, my business partner sells them, and her name is Excite Me, and you can find her also. Go to her website and purchase toys. But this toy is actually by Satisfier. You can also go on their website and buy their toys. But she has like more of a discount.
I'll put the link on my stories as well.
Okay. And the masturbation gloves, I've actually had like a long time. I don't even know if they still sell these. But I'll look and see if they do. But I've had these probably like maybe like 6 years. I've had them a while. So I'll see if they still sell them. But yeah, I think they're always kind of great to have around this time of the month, or this time of the year to talk about during masturbation month.
Okay.
What's a healthy
And
amount?
who knew that
Yeah,
there was a month dedicated to
I know.
masturbation? Because I didn't.
And I love that it's also Mental Health Awareness Month. I love that they're together.
All together.
Wow.
What's a healthy amount of masturbating though? Because when does it get to a point where you're like, okay, it's becoming like it's becoming a problem?
Yeah, I think that anywhere from like 1 to 3 times a week is healthy. Because masturbation, your sexual health is part of your physical health, your mental health, and emotional health. It all goes together. So, just as people go to the gym every day, some people would say that's excessive going every day, So if you're going to put that much energy into going to the gym, why not put that much energy into your sexual health? And I think that's a misconception of, well, I don't have a partner. That doesn't matter. You can still pleasure yourself, and that's still part of it. Some people masturbate, some people meditate. I do both. I mean, you do what you need to do to help reduce the stress, and actually be in tune with yourself and your emotions and your body and the way it's responding and things like that. So I think 1 to 3 times is great. Excessive can be by my opinion, I think excessive is more than like 3 times every day. That's I've had a client before that was like 8 to 9 times a day, and that was a bit excessive because it was now disrupting his work life. He was not able to focus. It was affecting how he was parenting. Like it becomes a disruption of your real life. That's when I would say it's an addiction, is when it starts disrupting other areas of your life now, and you're kind of prioritizing that over other important things.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So Melissa says, what nutrient or supplement increases the libido? So can you even speak to piggyback on that, speak to things that even you're in your diet in terms of food wise, et cetera, as well?
Yeah, Melissa, this is a great question. And I know there's a lot of weird things out here of supplements that people take. I'm not real big on the supplements. I know other people that take them, but it's never something that is consistent. They'll take them to just see how they work, but they're not taking them long term. So I honestly really just suggest people try to eat better and drink lots of water and work out a few times a week. Just getting more movement will increase your libido. Eating more oats, green vegetables, water. Water is like a key. Your body needs to be hydrated in order for you to be able to perform and for your genitals to perform in better ways. So, yeah, I don't really get too big into the supplements, honestly. And I know some people have to take medication to, perform and things like that. And those are things that you need to have a prescription for and be able to consult with your doctor if you need medication. But as far as like increasing your libido, definitely, eating better and getting more water and movement will help. Masturbation also will help with increasing your libido. So yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Um, I'm going to insert the anonymous question that we had. So here goes.
Okay.
She says, I love my husband dearly. I'm attracted to my husband and I thoroughly enjoy sex with my husband. However, all caps, my days are long and a lot of times I'm just too tired to engage in
Mhm.
sexual activity. What can I do to find some energy so that I can engage and not leave my husband feeling rejected? And I feel like it's
Mm,
a perfect segue from what
yeah.
you just
Yeah. I'm so glad that this person asked this question. Thank you. This is a common one. This is a very common question, especially with the couples I've seen. You have families and jobs and other obligations and things like that, and yeah, you're just tapped. And so, one of the things I have learned to do with couples is really being able to communicate that to your partner. Of I just have too much on my plate right now. What can we talk about of how we can delegate? So delegate some things so I have enough energy at the day to have sex. Because let me tell you, when I've worked with husbands, they're like, what you need me to do? I will do it, and we're gonna get. If I'm gonna have more sex with you, if we need to hire a cleaning lady, we'll get a cleaning lady. If I need to pick the kids up more, let's do that. Like, but they
yeah.
don't know unless you talk to them and tell them what you need. You know,
Mhm.
and a lot of times, I think if this is a woman of color, right, we just black women just naturally take on more
Mhm.
and don't feel like we can give a lot of our stuff to other people to help us with, because then it makes us look weak, right? Or it
Yeah.
makes us look different if we say that we need help. And that's not the narrative that we come from, like not our generation anyway, that maybe it was our mother's generation, but now like we are all about delegating. We're all
Mhm.
about getting some help and making this whole life easier, So I really encourage this woman to talk with her partner, talk with her husband about what are some things that she needs to get off of her plate in order to feel like she has more energy
Mhm.
to do those things. I also am going to encourage you, take those PTO days, take a day off. Tell your husband to take a day off where y'all just at home together. The kids are at school or in daycare, and you two have the whole day to be at home together.
Mhm.
Or if you
Mhm.
can't take a day off, see if you can work from home. And
Mhm.
that way, or and you can work from home, and you have that still have that time to be able to have sex in the middle of the day if you can.
Mhm.
But you have to prioritize it. You have to make the time, because if you can make the time to cook, clean, pick up children, go to work, do all these things, then you have the ability to make the time for your partner too.
Mhm.
So I really
Yeah.
suggest taking time off, having babysitters come in, or sending the kids to stay with grandparents, aunts, uncles, something, so that y'all have enough room for the evening to be able to have that quality time. And believe me, people are more than willing to take kids when you're like, we need a date night. Can you help us out?
Mhm.
Friends and family are usually willing to help out. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
To piggyback on that, and then we're going to get a couple of last questions because we are coming up on the hour. Um, when it comes to couples, how often do you suggest that they prioritize having sex? Because time moves fast. And before you know it, life is busy. And before you know it, I hear people, it's been weeks, it's been a
Mm,
couple of months, whatever the case may be. And going back to the communication, one person may not say anything verbally, but now you got, kind of attitudes in the house, aggression, but, this kind of, what do you call it, where it's, uh, basically it's the spirit and the vibe in the house is just not on point, and no
right.
one is saying it's because we have not been intimate, and no one's saying it. So how often should couples prioritize? And I will specifically say to women, because we tend
Mm,
to can let the time pass. A man may be ready at a
Be
certain
ready.
time, but we like, listen, I'm tired, just like the question, So
yeah.
what should be the goalpost to say we do not go this long without being
Yeah. My policy has always been, don't go more than 2 weeks without any physical contact.
Okay.
because people can go weeks without even hugging each other, without kissing each other.
Wow.
And so my policy is that you don't go more than 2 weeks without physically touching your partner, whether that's sex or hugging, cuddling, kissing, something.
Mhm.
I think it's too much pressure sometimes to put sex on it. I mean, ideally, I would like for couples to be having sex at least once a week. But I feel like for some people, that's more of like a to do. It's like, oh, well, we had sex this week, so now we're good. I don't have to have it with you for the rest of the week. So I try not to put like a number on it.
Yeah.
So I really encourage people to just don't go more than 2 weeks without any physical contact. And it's interesting because when I was studying to be a therapist, I love that I got to go to some workshops with two therapists that were married. And they said when they would argue, I don't know, they have a book too, but I can't remember what it is, but they had when they would argue, they found a way to, in a safe way, touch each other during the argument because it diffused the energy. It brought them back down to a neutral level where they could have a civil conversation about whatever the issue was, and then they were able to really talk it out. And they literally went through the policy of like, we will not go to sleep angry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I found so much power in that, and I've used that for years with couples of, find a safe way to talk and connect, and that's no different with the intimacy of connecting. Like, I think you're right. Like, with the longer people go with weeks and months, it just puts this distance between us. And if I'm still choosing you to be my partner every day that I stay in this relationship, then I have to connect with you. And that's more than conversation wise, yes, and in other ways, but physically, I need to touch you and know that like we're still here. I'm still here wanting you.
Yeah.
Desire each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One question I do have, well, someone else had this question, and we can go into our comments. They said, should you ask for oral sex? Because I know people are weird about that. Like, oh, should I ask for oral sex? Like some people don't do oral. Like, do you feel like when it comes to that, people should up front say, look, I don't do oral sex, or should people ask? Like, what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. It's one I get pretty often. I always encourage people to ask what they want or ask for what they want, right? Like when it comes to sex. But if the person is immediately like, no, then you need to back up and have a conversation about, can you tell me why you feel uncomfortable giving head? Or, is there any reason why that couldn't be something discussed later, or just having more of a conversation of, is this something that happened? Like, I think it's always good to get a little bit more background, because a lot of times I have taught a blowjob workshop for the last few years. And so I've learned a lot about women, saying like, I don't give head because in a previous relationship, I might've been forced to give it, or I was, yelled at while I was doing it, or I was made fun of because I didn't give it the way that they saw it in the porn, and they were ashamed, and so they don't want to go into another relationship still thinking like with that same trauma, right? And so so we had to just kind of talk through those things of, you can't put the past relationship on this new partner, like try to be open and things like that. So I think it's okay to ask for head and see what the person says and be willing to have a conversation about it. Don't be immediately defeated if they say no. Be willing to have a conversation about it and be open to what they're going to say. And just because they said no now doesn't mean that things might not change as they feel more safe in the relationship. But I think you have to be willing to ask for what you want, and then be willing to listen when whatever the person's response is going to be.
And let me ask something real quick before we jump back into the comments, and we just gonna take a few more minutes, y'all. It's not gonna be forever, but okay. So speaking, and we didn't get to pre-show, so I don't know your spiritual background, but I want you to put that hat on in terms of like people that come out of the church or the mosque or wherever, the people of faith, that particularly the people that it's whether we're doing it or not, that is taught that sex is for marriage, right?
Mhm.
How important do you think if couples are actually, targeting to wait until they are, engaged or married, actually married, to have sex, that they have some type of premarital sex because we have premarital counseling, but
Yeah.
should there be premarital sex therapy or sex counseling
Mm.
where at least conversations are had and we're not, surprised once we get, I mean, and I'm talking about in depth because, people skim the surface, but I'm talking about like the stuff that you're talking about. Are you comfortable with oral sex? Are you
Yeah.
comfortable with giving and receiving it? Are you comfortable with other type of sex?
Mhm.
Like getting into the nuts and bolts that I would say, especially someone having grown up in the church, a lot of it is not talked about and it's hush hush, even though people are doing it in secrecy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But how important do you think, as a sex therapist, that you know these specific, deeper sex conversations should be had?
Yeah, I think that if those are your values and morals, then you need to stand by them and talk to your partner about them early on, and let them know, like, I've never done that. So I'm not sure if I'd be comfortable with it, but I'm open to talking about it. I'm open to learning about it when the time is appropriate. I think people have to really be honest about where they are and not say things because you think that's what the other person wants to hear. You
Mhm.
have to be standing by what you feel comfortable with. And I think oral sex is a big one that comes up for people that are waiting to have sex until marriage. They're like, well, we can do this. But then it starts leading into other things of like, well, we did oral, so why can't we do anal? It's still not vaginal. Like,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
it starts bringing up these different areas that you may not be ready to go into, and so
Mhm.
I think you have to really be one in a good place with yourself of what you feel comfortable with and what you're not, and
Mhm.
then being able to communicate that to your partner and establishing what are we comfortable with,
Mhm. Yeah.
because it's you, that person, and then you as a couple of what do we feel comfortable with and how does this fall in line with our morals and values as a couple.
Mhm. Yes.
um, but I mean, the religion part has come up a lot over the years.
Mhm.
I knew I was breaking barriers in our blowjob class when we had a pastor in there. We had pastors' kids. I was like, I'm doing pretty good if I've had pastors' wives in here. And
They like, listen, I got to keep it hot and popping.
Right.
To be
I
woke is
gotta satisfy
right. I
Brother
was
Brown.
like,
Gotta
I
satisfy
mean,
Brother Brown.
yeah, just because you in the church don't mean that you can't pleasure your partner. Like,
yes,
and it was
yes.
interesting when I was training to be a sex therapist, we actually watched a film called Sex in the Bible.
Mm.
I recommend you Google it because it literally goes through all the sex that happened in the Bible. And
And
I'm
it's a
like,
lot.
it's a lot. I'm like, when people want to come and talk about religion, I'm like, well, let's talk about a couple chapters first.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Absolutely. Okay, I love it. Okay, so let's get these couple of questions. So
Okay.
Christina says, so answer the debate once and for all. How much does size matter? Is it okay for a relationship to end because of sexual size compatibility?
Oh, Christina. Size matters depending on the person. It really depends on you and like some women are size queens and would prefer not to have someone that's this size and would prefer someone this size, but you're making some big sacrifices, if you're basing the end of the relationship on someone's penis size that they have no control over.
Mhm.
So I think we have to be mindful of all the other qualities and characteristics that they're bringing to the table. But I think it really depends for every woman. I think it changes too as we get older. That we may not always want someone, what we wanted in our 20s may not be what we want in our 30s and 40s. So,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
think it changes as you get older. So you might have settled for this guy that had this big dick when you were like in your 30s, but now in your 50s, you're like, oh, I wish it was something smaller. You know what I mean? So it depends on the person. I mean, we all have our preferences, but
Yes.
you know, if
Yes.
you have to
Absolutely.
get that,
Natasha said it was looking it's looking like giving birth. It's giving birth to her.
Listen, there is such thing as too big now.
Sabrina said size definitely matters for me.
I mean, yeah, I think everybody has a preference, you know, and some people don't.
Yeah.
When I have plenty of friends that are like, I like a guy with a small penis, and I'm like, good for you. That's not for me. But you know, they don't have any like they don't have to worry about like gagging or anything like that while giving head later. So I'm like, all right, there's some benefits to a small penis.
Yeah, well, I will and because we're 11 after the hour, I will end up with this, and Carrie, then you can jump in with whatever else you have so we can end it up. But I will say there's a Chicago radio personality called her name is Kendra G, and she has a singles dating show that she started during the pandemic. So it started on Instagram, went to Facebook, and now it's on YouTube. Kendra G Media on Instagram. I want to shout her out. She has hundreds of thousands of people that follow her now and hop on for these dating shows, right? But she posted what someone wrote in that this, single mother of three, she has a guy who's great. He is good to her kids. He helps pay bills. He treats her like a queen, but she said the sex is trash. And she said that her ex, who is a nothing dude, but he's great in bed. She's like, they have the three kids together. She knows him sexually. He's great that way. But he's a trash dude, right? So she's still having sex with him, and she's trying to enjoy her new man, but she's saying that it's just not working for her. And she said that she doesn't feel that there's a solution because he's on the small side. So it sounds like the size matters in this situation. So can you speak to when we're making choices relationally, and when you've had multiple partners, and on top of that, you've also had children. Women, our bodies change, obviously. Now, I ain't had no kids, but I heard that your bodies change, when after you have children. So is a situation like this salvageable, where a man is smaller and she's used to larger, and all of that? What would you tell this woman?
Oh, a multiple of things. Like, see, this is where it can be handy being poly, right? Because then you have another partner who you're like, no, is reliable to get you off. But this is where she could use a sex coach. Like, this is where you could use a sex coach to help improve the sex, because everything else is great. So I'm not going to throw someone away just because the sex is trash. We can work on it. People, if the person is willing and open, then you can work on becoming a better lover to your partner. Two, she has to stop having sex with her ex, because this partner, even if he was working on stuff, you wouldn't know if he was making improvements, because you're always going to compare him to the ex.
Yeah.
You have to remember why you broke up with the ex. This is also why they have vaginoplasties. You can make your vagina tighter so that this partner feels better if he's too small. So that's a whole thing that I think women are just now starting to really kind of conceptualize. A lot of women use it after giving birth, because your vagina changes after giving birth and things like that. So you can get a vaginoplasty where it just tightens up your vagina, so that way your partner no longer feels small.
Listen, my vagina does not get wet for trash men. I don't care how good sex is. You're trash, like my vagina is dry. If you got a good job, you'll provide. Listen, she gonna be dripping and dropping it.
It's so true. That's what I mean. So for some of us, our emotions and everything is tied into our sexuality. It's not just about the size, or he know how to move and he know the spots. It's okay. He's a trash dude. He's a deadbeat dad. He's treat like trash. The only plus is No, like, but
Yeah.
every woman is not like that,
Well,
obviously.
Yeah.
and it's like for me, like I look at situations like that from even like from my marriage and family lens of now you're teaching the children that that's what's appropriate. And
Yeah.
that's not okay either, like that this is how kids start to really formulate what relationships are, what healthy relationships looks like, and unhealthy relationships. And it's shit like this. You
Mm,
still got him coming over to dick you down, but if he's still ain't helping take care of his kids, bye.
yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I look at it in those ways of, what is this modeling for the children?
Yeah. Yeah. That's very true. So we are 16 after the hour, and we want to respect your time, Miss Smith. And so, is there anything that you would like to share that you didn't get to share, before we close up? Any closing words?
Yeah, I just really want people to be open when talking to others about sex, whether it's friends, family, partners. I just really ask you to be open because it's not always a comfortable space for people to have those intimate conversations. But when you're open, people feel more willing to talk about it. And when people are willing to talk about it, you're able to learn more about them, but you're also learning on how to connect with them. So just be open to listening and talking, and be open to different things related to sex because you never know what you're going to like until you actually expose yourself to them. So be open to new things that partners may want to introduce you to, or something that you've been curious about. Bring it up, talk about it. There's lots of different workshops and conventions and conferences and YouTube things that you can watch or participate in to learn more about sex or different things that you've been wanting to try. So just go into it in an open mind and an open space.
Okay. Sister.
I don't have any. Well, of course, I have so much more. I mean, we could talk about sex all day. I feel like we've only scratched the surface.
Of
So,
course.
um, would you be open to coming back in the future, Jenifer? Maybe doing a part two? Because I know there was other
Definitely.
things we wanted to talk about: the poly lifestyle,
Yeah.
in how that incorporates with sex. So I know there's way more that we want to discuss when it comes to that. So I would love for you to come back. So I feel like I'm seeing the numbers of our audience have increased a lot today, because we were, on the subject, and I see a lot of ladies chiming in and asking questions. And I think it's to the point where a lot of people, I do want to add, and Jenifer, if you can confirm this, not most people aren't great at sex. You got to have to like teach your partner kind of
Absolutely.
work it out. It's not going to be
Yeah.
good with the first, the first try, the first time you sleep together.
Right.
You're not going to figure out each other's bodies right away. So I do think as women and men, they go off of the first time you have sex and look, oh, that's trash, if they weren't great. You got to have a
Yeah.
rhythm to it. You got to get to know each other. You got to,
Right.
there's more of a deeper connection when it comes to good sex. Good
Mhm.
sex is not just banging someone's back out. Obviously, there's
Right.
so much to it. So,
Yeah, no, that's like my mission in life is to help
yeah,
people to be better lovers in general. And
yes,
being a better lover comes from communicating. You
yeah,
like a real lover knows like how to pleasure you. What do you like? How do you like to be touched? How do you like to be kissed? How do you, like what do you need me to do to set the mood? It all comes from conversation and really listening to your partner. So yeah, I'm really, really big on that. So I hope that next time, we'll get more men asking questions because I think it's really an awesome space here for people to ask questions and really get some good answers.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. And what we'll do the next time that we schedule for you to come back, we will definitely, because it was kind of a last minute thought, like, oh, let's see if people have questions. We will actually gather questions because some people we do acknowledge some people are squeamish about publicly talking about sex
Yeah.
and the things that they're curious about or the things that they just the questions that they want to ask. Some people are shy about it, so we want to give people the opportunity to anonymously ask questions. And I do want to add this, put the bullet point on it, because I do have a lot of folks from the church and all that kind of stuff. Listen, do not send me, no, Messages? I don't wanna see
They
your
gonna be sending me
side.
messages. I already know they're gonna be sending me all types of DMs asking me. Let me just ask this one
Listen,
question.
this space is not a church space. I'm a church girl. We love God. We love
Yes.
God. Okay, me and Carrie are down with Jesus. Okay,
Me too.
however, this is not a church space, and so we are able to have different opinions, different perspectives, different points
Mhm.
of views. If it is not your view or your belief, that is okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
And just because whatever Jenifer shared, that is her view, her perspective, her experience, and it doesn't matter. It's not reflective of whatever. So I'm just saying, chill, okay? Because I feel it. I can feel it already.
And
Just
I
chill
would
and be
love,
open to what you can get. Okay.
and I'd love for people to reach out to me if they have questions. I am I'm United Methodist, and like I am so thankful that I have a church and a pastor
Mhm.
that supports me in this career. I've
Yeah,
done actual workshops at my church about being having sex and being a Christian,
it's
being a
needed.
sex
Yes.
therapist and a Christian, and like we've been able to talk about it, and they let me bring condoms to the church because we lived in a city where one in three people were HIV positive. We have to talk about sex here at the church.
We have
Because
to.
people are infected here, so
Yes.
I totally encourage people
Mhm.
to reach out if they have questions, or or they want to have me come and speak at their church, or they
Please
want to have me.
provide your contact information. How can
Yeah,
people
yeah,
find you online, wherever? How do people reach out to you?
Yeah,
yeah.
give your
So
credentials.
so I am a resident in counseling in Virginia, so I am accepting new patients for marriage and family, mental health, sex. Like I'm accepting new patients right now in the Alexandria, Virginia area. You can go to our website. It's called Psych Your Mind. Or you can email me at Jenifer Smith, mft@gmail.com. And that's Jennifer with one N.
Child.
Um, or
I was
you
trying
can
to type it in the comments, but we'll have to put it in there later. But go ahead. Go ahead, Jenifer. Tell it.
or if you can follow me on Instagram, where you saw this flyer at today, and my contact information for the website for the practice is literally there in my bio. So feel free to reach out and get my contact information. But I do workshops all the time where I can come and speak at I've spoken at sorority events and church events and just girls' night. You can hire me to speak at anywhere pretty much. And or just reach out to me if you just want to speak one-on-one for a consultation. That's all. I'm open to that as well.
Awesome.
Very good.
Awesome.
Very good.
Thank you so much. I thought
Thank
this was
you.
amazing, and I look forward to a part two because I agree, Carrie. It just scratched the surface. There's a
Yeah.
lot to talk about on this
Yes.
subject, and so we are 23 minutes after the hour, so we're going to wrap it up. And we just thank you all so much for rocking with us tonight. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Please like this video, and share it. If you found that it was valuable information, please share with others and invite others to come into these Tuesday night conversations, because we're keeping the ball rolling and we just want to grow this community and infuse some good love. We are looking for the good love, right? And that's what we're about on this channel. So thank you again, Jenifer.
Thank you both for having me.
Thank
Yes,
you so much.
absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
Amazing.
So with that said, good night,
Good
everybody.
night, everyone.